Hello traders, this is Alex with the Matrix program, formerly the Stock Matrix program. We're going to review some of my tricks that I use technically to forecast some prices. Now this is all in the rough, right? I don't ever treat a forecast like a trading platform, right? Gann, WD Gann's trading platform was a 2-day trendline indicator. That's all he ever used. To, Now, once the trend turned, he might have been looking for a low, right? A square of 9 or the master chart showed a possible low. Well, he wouldn't actually go long that particular market until the 2-day trendline indicator went. But he had to know when to start looking, right? So that's where the master charts, the square of the range, the square of the price, the solar eclipse, which he used a lot to forecast potential bottoms, tops, and whatnot. So we're going to review some of that in a Bitcoin and silver, maybe even break it down in an hourly, we'll see. But this is my X account, kind of the standard intro. CBOT man 33 is my handle. So you can go back there and I post some stuff. I haven't posted anything lately. The last one was the silver, kind of looking at a comparison. And this is kind of a follow-up from that, right? So now let's go to the bar chart, which I use for my charting. And again, you can still see I've got the stock matrix stuff listed here. But when you go to bar chart, once you create some stuff you want to look at, you can either click on it and it breaks it down, individually real quick, or you can go here, you click, and it breaks down all the Greeks and the stats, right? Which I'm not interested in today. I'm not a fundamental guy anyway, but here is once you got a list created, you hit this flip chart button, and that pulls up all the different ones. Right now, we're going to go to Bitcoin Cash. Here is the gold. I've got some stuff still on there from the last video. I didn't quite get deleted off. Here we go. All right, this is the Bitcoin. Now again, you can thumb through each chart with these arrows too, by the way. Now, first thing off, I wanted to tell you is Bitcoin has reached 50% level from this last high, 52% drop. So this was the actual level we talked about the other day. Now, do you buy because it's at 50%? Maybe, right? Now, if you're a stacker of Bitcoin, I hate that word stacker, by the way. I mean, if you buy dips only and you never sell, this would be a nice area to do so, right? I mean, add some more. Now, I don't ever advocate that. I hate people who keep adding to losers. That's not one of my trading mentalities I can get on board with. A lot of people do. They only buy. Some of them buy strength, some of them buy dips only, but they always hold it and never get out. Okay. I don't have that kind of money, I guess. My little money that I use, I make sure I don't like losing. Now I'm going to give you a quick tip on Bitcoin from my looking at it over the years. Is typically, and the nice thing about Bitcoin, now I'm not advocating Bitcoin, I'm just giving you my 2 cents worth. One nice thing about Bitcoin, we know it only breaks about a year, right? So like from this high to this low is 1 year. So when you're looking technically at stuff, 1 year out is kind of your benchmark. Now, wheat could be 6 years from high to low. It stays in that chop bottom from a long time. Soybeans could be 3 years. So again, you got to understand your market and know the history. But the nice thing about Bitcoin is only we know so far a 1 year break has been about it in the modern era. So that's a good thing to know. Now it stayed there for another 6-8 months, right? But it was only a year break. So once you got 8 months down the road after this high, then I would start turning on. If I was going to buy dip for longer term, right, I'd look after 8 months. So that's just me because I know the history a little bit. Now I'm also a solar eclipse fan. Hang with me. I'm going to pull up my one solar eclipse chart, which is kind of important. Hang on. Okay, here's my Bitcoin matrix chart. Again, my whole website's name is kind of stock matrix, commodity matrix. This is the matrix, right? I use the solar eclipse as time, square 9 as price. Now, on my stock matrix, I use quarter moons. This is a little different. I divide, since Gann used to forecast his highs 90 degrees over from the solar eclipse, every time, by the way, that's when I broke it down into market days, and because then I could break it down a little simpler for me. Because again, we started adding holidays and different things a lot more than they used to be. So anyway, this is a division of that. Now, one thing I wanted to clarify, how, in the universe, in our realm, we do break down time differently. The solar eclipse is a division basically twice every year, so biannual. But every once in a while, we get some anomalies. 2000, there was an anomaly. We had 4 solar eclipses in a year. This time we have, you can see here, this is the time, right? Solar eclipses are much quicker. So you can see, like, this is the normal, right? This green little one here, right here, this is halfway between the solar eclipses, basically. And so 66 market days is what I use, or basically this one, right, to fork in 90 degrees on the Gann wheel, that kind of thing. It's a little different, right, because quarterly, Some quarters have more days in them. Some quarters have less days. And if you're using a Gann wheel kind of thing, it's not divisioned equally because of spring as less days, fall has more. Anyway, so it's not quite exact, and that's fine. Never try to be too precise in your looking at anything. But you can see like this normal sequence, and now this is the next solar that we're actually trading in right now in this box, right? This is the next solar eclipse. So it's pretty wild to me what it's going to do. Now, again, I could sit there and maybe make a guess. Doesn't really matter, right? All I know it's going to get wild. Every solar eclipse volatility, especially in the commodity world, gets crazy. Again, I'm a soybean kind of trader originally. So I don't know quite what it does to the metals. I just got to assume volatility is going to stay very high until we get into March and maybe out into here, right? So we just finished this sequence. Now we're on this sequence into the solar eclipse until February 17th when the solar comes in. So I wanted to kind of show you that. Now this is the Bitcoin chart since I got it up, and you can see we powered up and then broke, right? So a typical swing, especially if it's a speed one. You can see that 90 degrees over from that high was here. 135 is your next zone. That's down here. So we really don't have anything now from the low, which hopefully I don't get you too dizzy here. We have this low, right? From the last low that we ever, recently traded. So that we're past the 360. We're in the new cycle, or the second spin of the Gann wheel, right? And this is the zone. We just passed 135. 180 will be right here, which will be pretty key. Now there's also one more, which was a low back here in 2022, right? So again, I try to change colors so you can kind of see it better. This one's 1440, and this one is 1080. Now you can't see it. Once you click it, you can, because otherwise it changes the box size and it screws up my mathematical stuff. So anyway, you can see, get back to it here, that 45 degrees is also matching up. Not quite. It's one box off. So, but again, this is a pretty important area. So if I was guessing, it's either going to be a back rally, right, or this area will be a potential low down in here, and who knows what. Right now, again, I'll get into some of that here in a second, but I just wanted to kind of show you that. Now again, as this chart goes, you can see it obviously broke trend here. This is a non-specific, right? There's no filters. It's a kind of a point and figure thing. So if it goes up 2 boxes above, like this one, this high, 2 boxes above, then the trend goes up, and if it goes below at least 2 boxes, then the trend goes down. So again, the stop was trailing here, and then it got broke just a couple weeks ago, and then the trend was up for basically 2 periods, and then back down we go. Now again, I'm using the square of 9-inch price, so everything is mathematical to a T, actually. But again, I try not to be precise in my world because I've learned that gets you pretty good trouble. It's got to go to 1040 because I projected it. Me, I. I am the king of my domain. I am the smartest guy in the world. I'm the best trader ever. Well, pride is definitely a sin, and in trading you don't want to be too prideful. That's why Gann uses the 2-day trendline indicator as his weapon of choice as a indicator, right? Now, where he actually went long once the indicator was up, or went short, or started pyramiding, right, because he had some time and price of something. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Let me get back to the other chart. Hang on. Well, hang on. I'm going to show you the silver chart, which I haven't updated yet. Well, hang on. Okay, here's my silver chart on the matrix. Right now we're trading March. You can see this 4x1 trend line off the solar eclipse close. Oh, hang on. Off the solar eclipse close right here. This 1x2, 1x1. Again, 1 box over. Right, a 1x1 is 1 box over, 1 box up. Pretty simple. This is 2 speed, 4 speed. We did hit that on the button. Again, not trying to be precise, but it just happened to do it. This was the center, right, or basically 50% of this, because again, the square of 9 changes mathematically. It's not like a pure 50 percentile level. Anyway, not here and there, but just based on the boxes, right? This is the center box, and that's kind of where we're at on the close right now. Now, I want to show you something though. This, again, I've had to change the speed. This was my previous speed, and then it got so fast. Again, you can see by using the square of 9s, I can change the speed. No different than if you're using a 1x8 or a 8x1 or a 4x1 or a 2x1, right? That's changing the speed too, but it's not changing the chart per se. So again, you can see that this. Then Gann didn't have this luxury, right? He had to do it on his paper chart. So if he redid it all, it took him a long time. I mean, back when I started, there was no computers either, and we did it all on graph paper. Real pain in the butt. I mean, if you had money, I guess you hire it done. But there wasn't no facsimiles or copy paper or nothing, right? I mean, so you had to basically do it by hand if you wanted to do it. So the chart was a pretty much work of art in my mind. Anyway, I'm getting off track. But this is the silver thing, right? Same kind of concept. Anyway, I wanted to show you that because we're going to get into the silver here in a second. All right, hang on. Okay, the Bitcoin, here's the Bitcoin chart on bar chart. Again, you can see I drew this in a while ago, 50 percentile. I drew that in basis the speed, right, which was forecasting the direction and the speed. And we did hit it down here the day before. We went through it a little bit here, but this was your 50% level of the high. Now, this is Bitcoin Cash. Don't know what that quite means for sure. Some of the futures did about the same thing as well, so I wanted something with a little history. So again, I don't know if the prices are the same. To be honest with you, I don't really care. I'm just trying to prove a point here. So anyway, Bitcoin is at an area where you might, dabble your if you're a stacker, or, what do they call it? Price averaging down. I just hate them words. I hate doing that. To me, if I had 10 grand, I wouldn't divide it up in little chunks and buy a little bit here on the break. I mean, I would find a spot I thought was right and put 10 grand in and leave it, right? Then okay, fine. Anyway, I hate one of my adages in my 4 decades of trading is don't add to losers. I just hated it. I've witnessed people lose a lot of money adding to losers, and the problem is once in a while they get lucky and it works. Well, then they remember that one time it works and the 10 times it failed. Anyway, off track. So anyway, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I use the Gann stuff a little bit. Again, I'm not trying to be too precise here. I just want to show you the potentiality, right? And again, forecasting should never be exact. The weather guys definitely aren't. But I'm going to use a Gann square. Now, again, square is a difficult word. There's several meanings for it in Gann's world. But the one that I use is the scaring of the range, squaring of price, squaring of time, right? But this one, this is a, whoops, that ain't the one I wanted. Hang on, dang it. I'm just using a Gann box. Now, I already got it divided into fourths. Now, again, well, I'm gonna, because again, you're seeing the results, so it's a little difficult. But first thing I do is I always draw in the Gann box. Again, I use force, right? Now you can, this is the little squiggly range that we had up here. That was one square high pivot, right? This again, you can't see it now because I got crap in there. That's the pivot, right? And this is the secondary event. So I always try to find something that looks reasonable to that event. Now, what we also know is that the longest break that we had is about a year long, right? So that's always in the back of your mind. And we got to keep track of this date, October 6th. Now, we also know that April 7th was a major pivot, which was the low. So I've got drilled in my brain, right? So, and we can see that this square of this range, right, was busted right away. So this makes sense that it's a high. So now we can go out into the future, right? And there's 50%. And then this would be 50% of that, right? Which again, it worked. And again, I wish it wouldn't have worked. But anyway, you can see that once we expanded it, because we knew it broke it here, right? It broke it here, so we could expand the square of that range and time and price, right? Because we set it up this as the 50% pivot. So now, again, it held for quite a while. So then you're thinking, all right, now we can spread this out. Now, again, hopefully you traded out of that based on that. Again, using a 2-day trend line indicator, right? But we know April 7th. I'm trying to pull it out here, April 7th. Now, that's a major pivot point, and we're trying to see if any of these gelled up. Now, it kind of did, right? So we know the low was a day off or two here, a day off here, too. So you can adjust that accordingly, basis that. So again, because April 7th didn't have to be exact either, right? But within it probably a couple days. So we're going to say April 5th basis this. So we now know that this 50% level, and again, this is 100%, right? So we know that we got to expand the range, obviously, because it took it out here. Now, we didn't know, right, until here. So now you're expanding the range to try to forecast, right, a potentiality. Now here's 50% of that. It busted through that as well. April 5th is still our zone. And so now you go, well, the only other thing that we got, again, keeping April 7th in our target zone, which is the main pivot, last year's low. April 5th, okay. So that now, see, I'm using this low as the next price target in a sense. Now we know that this is important as well, 75% level. So again, now this is our expanded square, right? So it's forecasting a potentiality. Now let's run this trend line now since we're in this current window. And let's run that box, right? We know if this is our speed, does it work, right? You look back and you can see the high to high worked. It kind of broke trend here and then, nothing much there. But now let's run it. If I can get it to cooperate here. Okay, let's go from high. Yeah, so you can see this high to this low, it worked, right? So parallel speed lines, mathematical even, worked. So again, pretty important on its own merit. So again, we kind of we're kind of in the possibility that this is pretty accurate. So the forecasting low right now is down in here, which is 37. And you know, what else do we know? Well, you know that the previous break was 87%. So you know, it's definitely in the cards. Now let's go back in time a little bit. Oh, and what else before I get off track? We know October 6th, right? So the 6th, the 7th, we got the 5th that we adjusted to because of these highs. So we know that that's pretty accurate. But one other one, again, is October 1 year break, right? Which is kind of the max for Bitcoin so far. So now we can go out October 6th, 7th, 5th. We'll call it the 5th since we're using the 5th and see if anything lines up. Again, let's change one speed in here. Again, I'm getting a little off track, but it's kind of important, right? Again, since we're just looking at potentialities. I don't want the time. Where'd it go? Let's get rid of that one. I'll do that one. Okay. Okay, I added the eighth, right? So we got eighth, quarter, half, 7,500. So again, it kind of, because again, all we're trying to do is just kind of look back in time to get a good idea and see when these kind of gelled up. Well, it's kind of gelling up. Ah, dang it, I don't know if I got the, I guess we got to go up a little bit. So we can see that 50 percentile level here and the eighth quarter are gelling up still. So again, the potentiality to me, again, looking in the future, are these dates right here, here, here. Now again, if we stay within the range. Now if we bust out the range, then you got to readjust, right? But that's just a way to kind of prove it to you. Now let's go back and look at this high back from 2001 in Bitcoin. Dang it. Let's just take this high. And we'll do the same thing and see how it worked. All right, so you kind of understand another within the same principle. Okay, we're trying to find, now we know this is the low, and you didn't know that till after the fact. But, you know, we're just looking for down the road kind of stuff, forecasting methods. So we know that that's a low. This is the square. Let's try to get it somewhere relatively 1 day offish, kind of right in there. Looks pretty good. Now this is your speed square. Let me get rid of that. It's like driving me nuts looking at that extra little box for some reason. Okay, here is your range that we're working with. Now again, we knew this was a low once it kind of messed around for a while in time, and you know, we actually broke the swing, right? So we knew this was an important low. Now we didn't know that this could be a pivot, and this was a secondary event, right? We didn't know that until it broke the lows out. Then we're going, uh-oh, something's more important. So and now again, if you take this, I'm going to duplicate it, right? Because here's your second square of that range. In price we haven't done anything, but in time we did, right? We're in a new square of time. So now we're taking that same principle and expanding it. So now I could copy. I'm just going to go like this so you can kind of see the chart so we don't get too much crap on there, right? So we know now that this is the next square of the range. So, but since we know, we're getting down here to 0, so it doesn't make any sense. So we're going to go 50%. And you can see, again, because we're not going to go, well, I can't say can't go negative because I said that in crude oil we did by $40,000. But you can see by taking the same square out now, this is the price, right? And it kind of forecasts, because again, if 0, this down here, this square was out of bounds, then you had to go up logically to the halfway point when we did, because that was the last important swing, and it projected this low right on the actually pretty goddamn close. Again, trying to be rough. So you can see that this projection worked. We know that the high was November 10th. So, and there is November 10th. So let's get rid of this one. We already know that one worked. So doing your little homework in the rough, right? Not trying to be too precise. What did I say, November 10th? There's the 10th. So we know that this was the low projection that worked. And then you go and see if, because again, when you're into the 10th, you didn't know that this was the low yet. I mean, it could have drizzled off and went to 0 and the thing was busted or something. So we know it worked there. We know this one worked. We know this one kind of worked. So again, it's all relative, right? But again, we're just trying to prove out that time, a 1 year cycle, basically, right? November 10th is important, and time-wise, it is. We're not really caring too much about price. So now that just proved, again, a simple little thing, right? It's not magic. It's just understanding the history of time, right? Everything comes back around, and knowing your market, right? Now wheat, you'd have to use a 6 year freaking box because wheat can stay at its lows for 6 freaking years. So Anyway, let's go look at silver real quick. I don't want to make this video too long. I just wanted to show you how. Well, let's don't use that. I got other crap on there. Let's use the spot silver. Hang on. Okay, my setup here's the cash silver. Again, I don't know where they get their actual prices. Just make it cash, but doesn't really matter. I just want something that's I don't have a bunch of crap on already. Now this is I'm going to set this up as a 1 hour chart, right? Because it's moving so freaking fast. I mean, it's moving 50 grand in a 4-day period or more. Frick, 50 grand in one day. It's moving a lot, right? And I noticed that, geez, we got down to 69 this morning at 12 a.m. Or no, that was earlier. They were 69 something. 64. Holy crap buckets. But anyway, we're going to try to prove this out. Try to ignore the future using the same principle. I'm going to use the Gann box. Again, you can do on other things, right? But we know that this 1 hour break was massive. So we're again, we're doing a quick chart. I could actually go to maybe a 5 minute even. All right, there is no, I can't get it. That's so fast. Well, I guess we'll do this. Now again, you ain't gonna be able to see a lot, but this is the high, the pivot, the secondary event. Now again, during that time period, it could be the buy of the century, and we're going to go up to 140. And as fast as it was moving, it definitely could have, right? But it faltered. Fundamentals changed. Everybody says, "Oh, we're out of silver." Well, if we're out of silver, the high's in. I'm sorry, but anyway, now, dang it, I don't know if let me get rid of some of this crap. Hang on. Quarter, three-quarter, quarter, three-quarter. I might have to put them back in later. All right, now this is the box, right, of this potentiality. Right now obviously you could go up or down, right? But we already know the pattern, so you could go either way until proven. Now we know it busted out time and price, right, out of the range on the next box. I'm duplicating the box. Again, this is on bar chart, so it's a little simplified. Now, again, here's the blocks. We broke it out down to here. Now I'm going to do something different. I wasn't planning to do this, but I'm actually going to put those quarters back in. Then I'm going to expand our box. Okay, so now we're going to go and make this one twice as big. And that gives us the quarters. Oh, dang it, I didn't want to go out any further. Damn it. Hang on. This is such a tight thing. I almost need to use a 10-minute or something. Man, this is an hourly chart. That's wild. That tells you how fast shit moves. All right, so here's our new box window. Let's change the color so you can see it. Let's go with the light blue. Okay, so this is our next window of time, and we stayed within that next window. Again, this was our potentiality low, right? Once we knew it broke out of time or price. And then it held for 1 second. It didn't actually get down there. It looks like this was the actual low, so it fell short of it, and then we busted it out again. So we'll draw a new window in, and again, I don't think I'll expand them now, but let's change colors though so we can see something. Sorry I'm doing this on the fly, but it's the only way I could do it without doing it and then deleting it. So we know that this is our next window, and we know then that, of course, it won't fit on the freaking chart. Ah, dang it. Sorry. I'm trying to get that one line to match up with all the other ones. Again, we're not real accurate here to the T, but it gives you an idea, right? So this is our next expanded window because we went in time and price. So now this is our next forecast line down here at 66.91. So that would have been what we would have been hoped for. Now we stay within this window until it breaks out. So let me see if I can think about how to. I just don't want to have so much crap on here you can't see anything. Okay, so there is our first range. I'm trying to do this a little differently. There's 3 boxes. And then I'm going to expand this next box to that size. We know then, and here was the time, which hit this high. Let's do it one more. Ah, coward. And that box hit this low. So again, this is awfully rough. I'm sorry for the slowness here, but I'm trying to do it kind of real. So let me see. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's 7 of those of that range. Actually, let's do, since we know the actual low today, let's run this off the highs and do it like this. So really we can get rid of those other ones now because we know that they worked, right? So anyway, here is your square for forecasting square based on this activity, right? So basically this one will be, let's put the 12s back in there. Right, so here is your 1/8 of this range. Now, let me see if I can get rid of this without screwing everything up. Come on. I guess I might have to go back. I hate editing this kind of video. Okay, there we're clean. So that's the actual projection. The actual low is right in here. So it missed it, right? But still fairly accurate. And we know now that the trend line, now we go back and prove, right, that, again, because we don't know that this low is good yet. I mean, it could be, right? It makes a little sense, dropping 50%. We dropped halfway. That's a halfway. Bitcoin dropped halfway. What are the odds of that happening all in the same sequence? Pretty odd, I would think. So now you kind of go through, let's just see. Nothing there. Let's go to the lows, to the highs, and it did hit this one, right? So this high, this low, again, speed line, mathematical line actually, projected this low pretty good. So we know that it's kind of valid, right? So now we can, if you wanted to, you could draw all your lines off of that. Now let's move this out a little bit so we can kind of get it in the middle of the window here. So that's your, again, we kind of forecasted this low back when the market broke this square. Now, when was the ticket, right? When were we going to make that low? Well, again, we forecasted that based on the time and price. So that's, again, just, this is an hourly freaking chart for Christ's sakes. I mean, you got to, again, but that was the movement. Actually, we should have broken it down in a 10, 15 minute something, right? You want to keep it, though, within the mathematical realm. 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour, you get my drift, right? Or something that breaks down equivalently to that, so that one day is part of the equation. So now we know that this high was on January 29th, and so now you just let's go out a little bit in the future to kind of get a forecast. Should have done this with Bitcoin too. Again, this is an hourly, so it's going to take a little bit. Ah, you coward. The 29th, I can't remember where I squared it. We'll just square it out to low. 29th, I don't even know what day that is. March, February 26th. 29th is on, so it'd be the 27th. Since that falls on a weekend. Shit, I don't know where it's at. For Christ's sakes, it didn't show me. So I'm guessing here a little bit that this is the 29th, and the time was at 9 a.m. And we're getting awfully specific. I hate being specific. There's 9 a.m. So anyway, it might be a day off. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But you can see that this is the potentiality, right? And these time zones will be fairly accurate based on that annual of a 1 month cycle from that. Now, we also know, right, that the solar eclipse comes in. When was it? Can't remember. Hang on. February 17th is the next solar. So let's pull this back just to see. There's the 18th. Let me see. February 17th. Is that a... No, that's a Wednesday. So somewhere in here, since I can't tell. So again, then you look at the potentiality, right? Again, we're mainly looking at time. We don't really care about price. Now you can see though, by using this low, this is the 50 percentile, right? And the 25 percentile in time in this box, right? This is 50%. So, and then this is 100% on our solar eclipse time frame. So that could be a freaking massive high by then, who knows? But it is working out to be fairly accurate. The 25 percentile was the right shoulder in the 1 hour chart here of this low, and then the high. So I kind of like all that. So definitely a potential big zone. And then of course, then we got to assume then if that's the case, this 50 percentile here of time is going to be important as well. And then what we also know now, right, since it broke down, that this speed line is important because of how it's trading. And you can see from high to high to high, so far it's up against it, which will add fuel if we break it. Then we have fuel here that we broke that, and so on and so forth, right? But again, this is some movement going on here, boys and girls. 120 down to 69. 120 minus 60, oh, 62. That's 58 freaking dollar break. Holy shit buckets, man. Times 5,000 ounces. It's $290,000 move in a few days. That's if you had one contract, 5,000 ounce contract of the big silver. And people are complaining about the margin, man. Again, as an ex-broker, that's concerning. Holy shit. And that's why the CME is trying to price everybody out from doing something stupid and blowing up. Because eventually the CME is the one going to hold the bag if the broker can't pay or the clearing firm can't pay. So again, that's why they have plenty of cushions for the pushing to collect the money. So anyway, this is interesting. I mean, I don't know what to make of it. Now let's just go back. Again, we're kind of doing possibilities here. Let's drag this around a little bit and see what we got. Not much there. This low to this low, yep. So we know that one worked. Of course, all the of them are so slow. Let's just go back and see what it did here. Kind of did this low to this low. So again, there's definitely a good possibility that this highs are mathematically correct. This low is uncertain, right? Because we don't know yet. But we know that this high is. And if we break this box, well, let's get it exact. Or exact as I can get it. So actually, we got to go down here to 62 something. The actual low here was 64. So on the cash, right? I don't think oh yeah, let's look at my March. I got all screwed. Now let's know. I'm going to sign off. I just wanted to show you how I project things, right? It's pretty important. I know I kind of muttered around here a little bit because I was dealing with something I haven't looked at. But that's how you can use some of these swings as a potentiality, right? Now you don't know, right? But if you're waiting or finding a spot to buy, as an example, this gives you some idea of time and potentially price where to buy or head down to your. Of course, it's an hourly chart. You better be at the pawnbroker at the time because it could be a $5 swing if they have any left, right? That kind of thing. Now we also know one thing about silver: the smelter guys are behind. Now why is that? Because they're getting inundated with a bunch of product. That's why they're behind. So they're smelting as fast as they can smelt. So we know all that silver is coming onto the market, hence the break, right? Now, if you're a logical thinker and you know the smelters were getting 1 week behind, 2 weeks behind, 4 weeks behind, well, that told you that there was going to be a crap ton of silver coming on the market. One other thing I want to, again, everybody, a lot of people conspiratorial thinking, JP Morgan short a bunch of silver and they're going to go toast. Now, here's the chart of JP Morgan. Now, I got a bunch of crap. Hang on. All right, I took some of the crap off. But you can see now here, JP Morgan short a bunch of silver. Does that look like a company in trouble? I mean, this made new highs last week. For Christ's sakes. Filter the bullshit on the internet because it's bullshit, everything. Now, again, you can see I got percentages. Dropped 45% back in 20, and 2021 it went up 124, down 41, up 173, down 28. So again, it moves and it definitely has breaks. So, and some of them pretty freaking fast. I mean, both these were pretty equal. Not maybe in percentage points, but in actual point break in time. So, but anyway, my point is, JP Morgan doesn't look like it's in trouble to me. I mean, if it was short a shit ton of silver, back in here, it would have been dropping, but it's making new highs. Now, you don't know. They might be long in the Hang Seng or a Hong Kong or long a bunch of cash. You don't quite know. Now, they're supposed to be transparent, but you don't quite know what they all got. Hell, they could be long so many mining stocks that it equivalated out, right? I mean, you don't know. Obviously, I look at that chart and I go, well, that's all bullshit, what you're hearing on the internet. So now Coinbase, which is kind of I used because of Bitcoin, you can see on this weekly chart, it has big breaks as well. And we're on one right now, 66%, right? So I put that on there a while back because that's a Gann thing. It's a mathematical thing. Thirds, 2/3, So now that was a bigger break than we had back here. So obviously be a little cautious. Something definitely could be changing when, again, we know that 1 year in the Bitcoin is equivalent, right? So now I used Coinbase because I couldn't find any options to trade when I was doing the stock matrix. But Coinbase was the closest thing I could come up with that had options to trade that were reasonable. Didn't have to open up separate accounts and all that kind of crap. But that high was July 14th. So if you're in the Bitcoin, that's a date to kind of write on your calendar or put in your phone. Now that's a weekly, so I don't know what the actual high was. You have to go to the daily chart. But you can see, again, action, reaction. We took out that all-time high and had a bull trap here, and it didn't stay there but 1 second. So again, we forecasted that it was going to do that. And then it broke, and then okay, fine. But now it's down here poking out these. Didn't only see if it made new lows or not. This low was 142.58. 145. So it has not made a new low. You got to assume it's going to take that out. 146, 142. Yeah. So you just got to assume there's going to be so many stops down there. They're going after him. Now, if it was me and I was a Coinbase trader, which I am not, I don't give a shit about Coinbase. And I wanted to buy, I'd be buying new lows down in here, especially on a gap down. That would be my trigger point in my brain saying, all right, that's probably enough. Now, it doesn't mean I'm right, right? Buying new lows and bear traps or selling new highs on this kind of trap, right? This was the all-time high when it first opened. It took it out. Those are scary frickers. I mean, options if you can only. I'm getting so far off track, man. I'm so sorry. But I kind of like talking markets. I could talk bullshit all day. Chart art, as they call it. But you can see these expanding. These are expanding. So the volatility is increasing, not decreasing. So this kind of calamity break is always in the cards. Let me just duplicate it, and we'll just see. Now again, percentages, won't matter. Right. This is the time and price. Now again, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to screw up my chart. I'm just trying to help people to understand. Oh, of course I had to grab the wrong one. I'm screwing up my chart big now. All right, that was 88%, and this is the fastest part of the decline. So that's what I want. So we're going to go here, and that already occurred. So again, you can see what I'm doing right now. It's a process elimination. We're going to go to the next low, and then you really need to take. I'm going to go to the pivot. I like pivots more than I do lows. So that pivot in time, right, and this in price is what I'm focusing on. Of course, it was also 88%. So, and that gives me a potentiality, right, of April 6th. Imagine that. Where do we hear April 6th? Oh, that was last year's lows. Now, it was also April 7th, right? So again, makes sense, right? Here I am again focusing on annuals, what Gann called annuals, and that's kind of my choice. Now, again, it's got some merit, right? It's based on that. I didn't know that. This is fresh off the press, but so this is kind of the target for me, 116-ish. Let's go up to no. Let's just go 120. Good enough. We'll go 120. Now that would definitely clear out the range, purge everything out, get the stops wrong, get everybody thinking it's never going to go up again, right? That's what it's got to do. Anyway, I'm going to sign off. I appreciate y'all, and have a good weekend. Relax. Don't go home with too crazy positions, man. The weekends aren't worth it. Be able to sleep at night. Use options if you can. See ya. Bye.